Hi everyone, this is Judson, and I'm going to show you some cool things that I've done with jQuery Mobile today, along with Dreamweaver and PhoneGap. So let's get started. So right here I have a mobile app that I built for my website, so to speak, it's judsondesigns.com. Hopefully you'll check it out. And what I've done is I've taken some of the basic functionality of jQuery and I'm combining it with some little tricks that I have up my sleeve in JavaScript and jQuery. And I felt like there were a few things missing in the jQuery mobile library, so I'm actually tweaking a few things, and I'm just going to show you one or two of those things at a time in these tutorials. So first off, I'll show you the app. Basically, it's a basic app. It looks just like what you would get with the standard boiler template from jQuery Mobile. And I've got three buttons here. So if you go to News, you'll see that this basically is a fixed footer, not a fixed header, but a fixed footer. If I go back, it does a reverse transition. A lot of people miss that. They miss that, hey, I got to put a reverse transition because I'm going back. Even with the home button, everything should be reversed. It should flow like you would naturally want to see it. Events, there's a picture of me and my favorite guitar photo and Judson live and all that kind of stuff. So again, very simple. There's no scrolling on this. This one is an example of the footer being static at the bottom there, hanging on to the bottom of the content, and you can see a little bit of space. And lastly, this is the new thing that I added. jQuery has a accordion type feature that they can implement. Or I'm sorry, jQuery Mobile does, but I wasn't really happy with it. It looked sort of cheesy, and you couldn't really integrate it with anything. So I came up with this, which actually looks a lot nicer. And notice that it changes the arrow. It does the this is a focus class that they use that basically implements a glow and a blue background, and it does a blind or slide down effect. Now there's been a lot of confusion about that effect. A lot of it has to do with certain browsers that it doesn't work in, and also with block elements. And I'm going to explain that further when I get into my code, because you guys might have seen some issues with this in the past. So anyway, I'm going to close this out. Go to my code. You can see I'm using Dreamweaver CS6. I'm actually experimenting with doing a build on this. I've been successful with actually doing a PhoneGap build and deploying it to my iPhone as a native application, which is really cool. And later on in the tutorials, I'll be doing calls to Cold Fusion services that will actually dump out HTML into my pages and stuff. So we'll get into that later. But for now, we'll go to my code. We're going to talk about those list items, the menu items. So we have news, pretty basic. Data transition slide, which you saw, it goes slides over. Same thing with events. And this is the new one. jQuery Mobile by nature does not have a data transition called blind. There is a transition called blind, or an effect called blind in the jQuery library. But what I've done is, because it's not available, I've said, you know what, I'm going to make it available. So what I did was I created data transition blind, and I went up here and I created this script. And just to make this a little easier to see, I'm going to go in and highlight so you can see all of this is the script here, okay? You're talking about 20 lines or so. And what I'm doing is, as a selector, I'm saying data transition blind, die. This is sort of a safety mechanism for bubbling and propagation. Live, click. So when they click it, event.prevent default, event.stop propagation. That's always safe to do, i.e. certain versions of IE, if not all of them, do not support these, but still put them in there. Var one to show. This is the div that we want to show. So I go down here and I look at page 4. This is the content that you see with the telephone number, the SMS, and the mail to. And then basically right here I go one to show dot height. Now this is a really cool fix that I came up with. If you ever notice, if you try to use the blind or the slide down effect, the slide down is actually the fix for the effect, but the blind effect is really nice because it does that little accordion style thing. But the problem is that when you're hiding content, it technically doesn't have any height to it yet, especially with table rows and things like that. So what I do is I basically take the ID of the element that I'm trying to show, and before I show it, I give itself its own height. And for some reason, this actually fixes it and makes it do the blind effect. So this is a nice little thing that I should be posting everywhere, but I just haven't yet. So what I do at that point is, and this takes a little research, you actually have to go into JQuery and look, or I'm sorry, into Firebug and investigate the way they handle everything in the HTML as far as classes and behaviors and things like that. But it's pretty easy to understand. But what I did was I went in there and said, on each of the spans, what happens is when you click on an element, they insert a span tag at the end of each set of elements, so to speak. And I say for each one of those, if it has class UI icon arrow D, so this is that little arrow that you saw right here that switches. That's what they do. They put the arrows in those spans. And I say if it has class down, remove class down and add class up. So that's what gives you that effect. And then the other thing that I have to do is I have to go back out and look at that list item, which is this, and say find the closest list item, which is obviously going to be the outside wrapper of that one, which is this, and add class active and focus. Now active and focus is basically the blue and the glow that you see, so we don't need to really get into too much more detail there. Else, in other words, if we're closing it, if it has class UI icon arrow up, we need to reverse everything. And I'm not going to explain it, it's just the opposite. That's it. And then down here, last but not least, one to show, slide toggle 500. And we're just basically giving it 500, half a second or whatever to slide down. So as you can see right here, and hopefully this will render properly, and I'm using Adobe Captivate. Boom, boom, and that's pretty much it. So that's the effect of what we have. Visit judsondesigns.com and look forward to more of these tutorials. Thanks.